Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 6 questions in 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. We'll go ahead and get started. First question, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Abe Loper, and I am I'm a small business consultant, and I also work as a financial advisor for individuals and businesses.
It's a great combination. I'm sure you can help a lot of folks.
Try to.
Well, question number 2, what's the best thing about working with a team?
Okay. So I think all leaders are very acutely aware of their own shortcomings, and being on a team allows me to put people around me that help me not sink my own ship with my own shortcomings, so they can make up for kind of the areas of lacking in my own life.
So a good little balance there. That's great.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 3, I hear from other leaders of teams that it can be a challenge to get team members engaged. Tell us your thoughts.
I've not had that problem. I don't put people on my teams who aren't already motivated to be there. If you have control over that, that's something that you can do to avoid that. If you don't have control over who's on your team, it becomes much more difficult. But for me, I try to find what motivates each individual. I don't think that there's one magic bullet that will motivate a whole team, but each person, and whether it's purpose or monetary incentive or something like that, just making sure that everybody is engaged in a way that they can be motivated individually is incredibly important.
I could not agree more about that importance of hiring and getting the right people on your team to begin with. Otherwise, it makes it a lot more difficult. But I also like your comment about the individual approach. That also makes a big difference. Well, question number 4, what other piece of advice do you have for leaders of teams?
I would just say probably the hiring piece is that, when you're building your team, I never look, and I know that this is going to vary widely by industry, but for me, I don't look for a certain type of experience or very objective skill set. I look for a type of person. And so from an HR perspective, if you're going to work with a team, and some of us don't have the privilege of working with teams, but if you have a team and you're building it and those variables are in place, I think getting the right people, and we've all heard you get the right people on the bus and you get the wrong people off the bus. That is the most important, number one priority when it comes to being somebody who's going to work on a team, is having the right people there. I just met with a client a couple hours ago, and she's an incredible worker, and she's on the wrong team, and it's just not a good fit. And so we're looking at ways to help that work, or to move in and maybe get on a different bus.
So for you, hiring is almost, you're hiring more to culture than you are to skill set.
Yes. And a famous leader once said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And culture is everything. It has been, and I've owned multiple restaurants. I've worked at multiple different financial planning companies, and every time, the company that has the best culture is the company that is most productive.
Absolutely. Question number 5, what other successful team leaders, such as yourself, would you like to recognize that have had a positive influence in your life?
Wow. So there are too many to mention to start out with. I seek mentors neurotically. The more people there are in my life that are older than me or more experienced than me or smarter than me, the better. And I want all of my time to be with them. And so I'm a sponge for knowledge. I spend time in person with a gentleman named Rex Jevedon, and Rex is the CEO of BWX Technologies. It's a fairly large publicly traded company. He's probably the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And so he knows how to lead a very large team effectively. He's actually has operations experience with NASA. And so he's a great person to learn from. I also learned from a woman named Christine Kennedy on a regular basis, and she's an executive with our regional economic development organization. And she is also a personal life coach, and just happens to understand how people work, how they interact with workspace and with coworkers in such a great way. She would be an exceptional person to include. And then I thought, if I'm going to give you 3, there's a gentleman named Tulane Patterson, and he's a friend of mine, and he built a company from the ground up, and he's got hundreds of employees, and he works in the elder care industry and is exceptional, again, at building a team and an organization that can grow and can scale effectively and really hums.
That's an impressive group of people, so thank you for recognizing them.
Yeah.
Last question. Tell us about your first job.
Oh, man. So my first job was, and I think it depends on how far back we go. My first job was mowing lawns, right? As a kid, I mowed lawns. In fact, I started my own company, and I created flyers on a terrible old computer, and I distributed them around the neighborhood. And it was, leaf raking, snow shoveling, lawn mowing, hedge trimming, that kind of stuff. And I felt like I was in business for myself, and I took ownership of that, and I followed up with people, and that was really important. But the first time I got paid by somebody, I bagged groceries for Kroger. and the lesson that I learned there, the most important lesson was I worked my first 2 weeks, and I didn't work many shifts. I went through training and maybe one other shift, but I got my first paycheck, and it was for -$5. And it was after taxes, plus the cost of my uniform and union dues had been paid. I made nothing. And I learned an incredible lesson in that moment that sometimes there are some peripheral expenses that you don't account for, and you need to be careful.
Yeah, that's a harsh way to learn the lesson, but it's one that we all figure out at some point, that there's some hidden fees there somewhere. So, well, Abe, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. We really appreciate your comments. How can people find you?
First, thank you so much for having me. What an honor. This is very cool. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I would love to talk to them. I'm on LinkedIn. You can look me up. First name Abe, A-B-E, last name Loper, L-O-P-E-R. Another way you can find me is through my financial planning firm's website, and it is a very simple billboard website with a contact form. And so you can just go to the Caylor Group, C-A-Y-L-O-R, thecaylorgroup.com. And last, you can find me on social media. And I'm on all of the social media platforms. Look me up by name. And I would love to hear from folks, answer questions, and serve you if that's a need of yours.
Fantastic. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can find us on LinkedIn by searching Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.